Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plell, joined in the studio by Tom Park. We've got Tom Siegel and Binners is back. Paul Binfield on the line from Paddy Power as well. Starting off, guys, with the Betfair chase, we've got a lovely image of Bristol De Mai winning it just behind us. Parky, you were on Native River. I thought Native River had run well beforehand, but he just loves Haydock, this fella, and beaten there now.
Yeah, I was just saying actually, I'm a big fan for horses for courses. When it won last year and then it flopped in the King George, I remember thinking, oh, he's not going to win another race this season. He's going to be a fantastic price at Haydock. Come to Haydock this year, didn't give him a prayer. I did back Native River. He ran a brilliant race. I think he's just pretty much unbeatable, isn't he, at that track? He just tanked through the race, jumped well. Don't know what it is. It's a track that certain horses seem to like. I mean, Q-Card obviously won a lot of his races there.
Lots of repeat winners, the Betfair chase, Corto, Silvagnoco, Conti, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's the time of the season that it comes, but I mean, the ground was completely different to what it was last year, so it's not ground for Bristol De Mai, but, you know, I still couldn't have him for the King George or the Gold Cup come later in the season. I wonder whether he'd have a chance at Aintree. I know he ran a bit better last year against Might Bite. It's a similar kind of track to Haydock, but yeah, I don't know what it is with Haydock. It was amazing to see Might Bite flop so badly.
Yeah, plenty of angles to take out the race, Tom. As other Toms mentioned already, Bristol De Mai loves the track. You had Native River running his usual sort of solid race, probably needs a bit more of a test. Thistlecrack, my boy, well, what can you say about that? He just didn't seem to jump very well at all, but still ran on really well. And then Might Bite, the big disappointment. Clandazobo ran okay. What was your main sort of takeout from the race?
How horrible Might Bite was. From the word go, I thought he was never on an even keel. His jumping was bad. He finished. Oh my God, I hate horses finishing like that. He sort of gave up, didn't he? You know, coming to the last. I mean, I don't make markets. Obviously, I'm not a bookmaker, and obviously I'm a punter. But if that anti-post market is right for the King George, then I don't know what racing they were watching at Haydock on Saturday. Because how can Might Bite be 3-1 after that performance? I think it's amazing. I wouldn't back him at 33-1 after that performance. I thought he was horrible.
Do you think it was the fences? Do you think he wasn't fit enough, had an off day? What do you make of that, the sort of Nicky Henderson's argument that he sort of got a bit shocked by the stiffness of the fences? Big talking point over the weekend.
I'm sure the fences were very stiff. I'm sure he might have got a bit frightened, but you go back, I'm getting on now. I'm nearly 50 now, and I've watched a lot of King Georges, and I've never seen one won by a horse that's been beaten 30 lengths last of 5 the time in its prep run. You know, it just doesn't happen. That's not how jump racing works. I would be massively against him for the King George. When I say I wouldn't back him at 33-1, of course, 33-1 is probably excessive, but 3-1 now is just a terrible price on the back of that. I thought it just shocked me because I love the horse. I know people were putting forward reasons saying like he had a hard race in the Gold Cup and he might not bounce back, but he came back. You know, he was better at Aintree than he was at Cheltenham after the Gold Cup. So I'm not having that. I don't know. Maybe he scared himself, but who says he won't scare himself next time? I mean, I think horses that do that are a terrible bet next time up, in my opinion. Of the ones I thought, Thistlecrack ran a very, very fine trial for the King George. I think of those ones. I think Tom mentioned it there that Bristol De Mai round Kempton. Look, if he's 8-1 again on Boxing Day, then I might be tempted into backing him because he was very dominant. I think he's much quicker than Native River, isn't he? So I think he'd probably beat Native River even round Kempton. Nigel Twiston-Davis made excuses for why he hasn't been at his best at Kempton. Not been at his best lots of times though. So I get why people will be against him at Kempton, but on form after that, you know, he can't be an 8-1 shot. Native River, I don't think will like the track, so I was sort of left with Thistlecrack being the one out of the race that might be the one for King George. But you know, might he bounce after his long absence? I thought. What
did you make of his jumping? Because he was so slow and deliberate, and every time he jumped, he then had to make up 3 lengths, then make up another 3 lengths, but then he stayed on really strongly at the end. It was a bit strange, wasn't it?
I don't like how jump horses hold up. I would have preferred to him use his stride. I think That's the key to jump racing, I think, is you get into a rhythm, and it's much harder to get into a rhythm jumping in and behind horses. I think a bit like Mike Bite, he probably smashed into one and then got a bit careful, but I think they should just let him rip. Like that, when he won the King George, he was in front a long way out. That's what I think. That's how I think I would ride Thistlecrack. And if I went to Kempton, that's what I'd do. And I think he'd be, of those ones that ran on Saturday, he might be the one of the ones that I would like most.
Yeah, Parky, a lot of people saying, they should go back over hurdles with him. And the Stayers hurdle does look sort of a weaker division. But I don't think Connections, to me, they don't seem like they want to do that. At least he's already won a King George. At least give that another go before saying they're going to go over hurdles. But I think they're the sort of people who, they've won at Cheltenham now. They'd probably prefer to finish third in a Gold Cup and give it a go than win the Stayers hurdle again. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I certainly wouldn't be against running him in the King George. I agree with Tom. I thought it was a good trial for the race. He was actually last off the bridle turning in.
Yeah.
And yeah, his jumping was a little bit sloppy. He's jumped well at Kempton twice before, so he ran a good race in the race last year. He's probably going to be better in it this year, so I wouldn't be against that. I just can't see Thistlecrack winning a Gold Cup. I don't think he's got the stamina to beat Native River. I don't think he's a good enough jumper to win a Gold Cup. I'd be tempted to give the King George a crack. Look, if he wins, they've got to go for the Gold Cup. If he doesn't, and if it's another disappointing jumping display, this Stayers hurdle division doesn't look the strongest, and he's still got that engine, as he proved on Saturday.
Yeah.
And look, I'd love to get him back over hurdles to see what he could do. He's getting on a bit now. I know Connections probably will want to go for gold, but look, if there's a Cheltenham Festival race that he'd have a favourites chance of winning, it might be silly to bypass that.
I totally agree, but we'll see what happens in the King George. Binners, how did the market react to the winner Bristol De Mai and sort of the performances from those in behind?
Well, good to be back on the Postcast with the millions of listeners, Maddie. For the King George the 6th chase, we now make Mike Bite a skinny, according to Tom, 7-2. Waiting patiently, there's been some money for him today, reports the Racing Post, 6-1, along with Native River, 7 Bristol De Mai, 8 Bells Hill and Politolog, and then it's 10-1 Thistlecrack, who you've just mentioned.
Okay, we'll move on to the Coral Hurdle now. If the cap fits, Tom, you spoke of him as sort of maybe a live champion hurdle contender at the beginning of the season. He was a little bit laboured, but he got the job done. Yeah,
it was a weird one because I think he's a quick horse, and he didn't look like a quick horse at any stage, did he? He looked like a stayer. He looked like talking about the Stayers hurdle there, he looked like a horse that could end up running in the Stayers hurdle. I was a little bit disappointed with him, actually, because going into the race, I thought he was a bit of a certainty and that he'd win very easily. Now, in the end, he did win quite comfortably, but I don't think that was him, really. I think he's better than that. I know the Connections are still planning to run him in the Christmas hurdle.
It was a quick run after the elite hurdle, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was possibly a bounce factor going on there, wasn't it? Because we've got to remember he missed all of the end of last year, didn't he? I mean, he ran in December at Boxing Day, and then we didn't see him again until Wincanton. So there is possibility that he was sort of a bit laboured on the back of that run at Wincanton, which was, which would have had a tough race there, on his first run back. It was a good race with Verdana Blue and We Have a Dream. I'd give him another chance. I know Connections are very keen on running him in the Christmas hurdle, and I think I'd give him another shot there, see how he stacks up against the best 2-milers, and then you can make your decision. I haven't given up on him at all being a champion hurdle horse of the future, but if you base it on what we saw on Saturday, he looks like he's going to want a bit further.
Okay, Binners, is he still, what price is he for the champion hurdle now?
Well, quite a big price if Tom Segale fancies him. 25s from 33s. We weren't overly impressed on Saturday, Maddie, but fair play to the horse. I thought he was beaten at one stage, and he stayed on strongly. Harry Fry says there's no need to up him in trip. 2 miles, 2.5 miles is fine for him at the moment. And that kind of went against a couple of top journalists, including your very own James Byrne of Lambourne. And Graham Clark, both of them asked me for Stayers hurdles quotes, but it looks like he's a champion hurdle contender, and he's 25-1.
Okay, big price, Parky?
Look, I think he looked a horse of plenty of speed last season. They gave Raven Black, I think it was, a very soft lead. He's probably done well in the circumstances to claw it back. And I'm not sure whether he is champion hurdle class. He has got bags of speed, but he stayed really well. Look, if he was,
stay to win a champion hurdle.
You do need to stay to win a champion hurdle. You also need to jump slickly. Bouvardais is just about as good a jumper of a hurdle as I've seen, actually. He's so slick and fast. He might just get outpaced. He's proven his stamina. I'd be tempted. Listen, I'll have my finger over the button on the Christmas hurdle for the stayers, because if Bouvardais breezes past him on the bridle, then I think he'll be a bet for the stayers, because I do think that he is a classy individual and he should be up there at the top of the markets come March, I think, but probably for the stayers I would go.
Maddie, the one thing I'd say is that Champion Hurdle looks incredibly weak this year, doesn't it? You know, if Bouvardais beats Sam Crow next weekend, Sam Crow won't run in the race, will he? He'll probably go chasing. Then you've got Lorena next in, Mel and Somerville Boy, Apples, Jay Draconi and Min, Super something. I mean, half of these aren't going to run. You know, so you're looking for something to an up-and-comer to fill the void, aren't you? To take on Bouvardais. Mellon nearly did it last year, didn't he? He nearly beat Bouvardais last year. I don't think there's that much strength in depth. And I think if the cap fits even gets close to Bouvardais in the Christmas hurdle, if he's beaten a couple of lengths, I think they'll be forced into having a crack at the Champion Hurdle, because that track will suit him much better. Surely, if he's the stayer that we all think he is after what we saw on Saturday, then he's going to like Cheltenham, isn't he? He's going to appreciate the hill, and I don't think Bouvardais is that much better than I don't think he's a brilliant champion hurdler, despite having won it twice, whatever he's won it now. I think he can be. I think he's beatable on what we saw last year, and with the lack of strength in depth, I think they might be forced to go down that route.
Yeah, well, we've not seen him yet, so who knows if he's going to reappear in the same form anyway, more of which later. We're going to preview the fight in fifth, but before we do, some more from the weekend, some great performances. Politolog, we'll talk about him. Lil Rockefeller won again over fences yesterday. Did They Leave You Out too? Thomas Darby, a great novice race on Friday. We had Vintage Clouds, I know, Parky, who you want to talk about, and Tua Permi winning the Troyton yesterday as well. We'll go back to Politolog, because I know you fancy him for the King George. What did you think of his Ascot win?
I love this horse. He's been down. I was hoping they ran him in the King George last year. Maybe a year, it's going to do him some good this time. Look, he ran a brilliant race in the Champion Chase in March after winning the Tingle Creek earlier in the season. He actually looked like he was going to give Altior a real race turning in. Just faded a little bit, just outclassed a little bit, I think. He beat Min at Aintree. I was very impressed with him the other day. I know he didn't win by that far in the end, but he jumps really well. I've always thought that a longer trip's going to bring more out of him. I think Kempton is perfect for him. He's brilliant going right-handed. I can't look. He was 20-1 after the race. This is straight after the race. I got a bit of 16s just after the Betfair. I think he's about 12s, 10s now. I just think, as we were saying earlier, the King George doesn't look the strongest race. I don't think it's going to look much different to last year's race. Probably Waiting Patiently is the one that you would add in there. And 10-12-1, I think it's a brilliant bet for a horse who's coming up, highlighting the Altior form, which is every horse that has stepped out of that has proved to be really good. So that Altior form is tip-top, and I think Politolog, he is really top class.
Tom Parky makes a really good argument for Politolog. I think he can be a bit deceptive in that he travels so well and then perhaps idles in front. I'm not too sure about the King George, but the owners are confident. What do you reckon?
I agree with Tom. I think he's perfect for the King George. I really do. I think so many times we see these horses stepping up in trip. They've got a bit of a class edge, haven't they, over some of the old stayers, because they're used to travelling and jumping at a quicker tempo. I don't see any reason why he won't stay. He reminds me of lots of free... if you go back through the King George, there was so many horses that we've sat there saying, the trip's a problem for him. Corto, when he won it first time, everyone was saying, the trip's an issue. Long Run, when he won it first, the trip's an issue. Edredon Bleu, when he won it, the trip's an issue. Desert Orchid, when he first won it, the trip's an issue. It goes on and on and on. And I think Politolog is such a good jumper, as Tom said there, that he is going to travel and travel and travel. And provided they don't hold him up the back, to get the trip, I could see him running really well. I agree with Tom.
Do you have him over Waiting Patiently?
I do have him over Waiting Patiently. One, because we've seen him, and Waiting Patiently is going to go there first up. And secondly, I think he's an easier ride, a better jumper, and I don't like extravagant hold-up tactics round Kempton on King George there. I simply don't. And I think if Thistlecrack and Native River get out there in front and get cracking on with it, Waiting Patiently, sitting out there, horses just don't make up ground. a long way at Kempton. They never do. And I think it would be really hard for him. I think if Politolog's more suited to the race than waiting patiently myself, there's not much between them anyway. We've seen that on many times. There's not much between them. And I think at the prices, I'm fully in Tom's camp there. I think the race is open for an upset or for a new kid on the block. And I can't see any reason why Politolog can't be it.
Okay, Binners, just refresh us. What price Politolog for the King George?
Well, Politolog is now 8-1, Maddie. As Tom Park said, he was 20-1 immediately after the race. One journalist at Ascot said to me that he felt a bit sorry for John Hales, who was going on about, I backed him at 16-1 each way on the way down to the winners enclosure. That's a bloody good bet. And I just told him that it was 20-1, so I don't know who Mr. Hales bets with, but maybe he ought to open a Paddy Power account.
Oh.
But it doesn't matter. Mr. Hales has got a superb bet at 16-1, and so has Tom Parker, now down to as low as 8-1, so he must have a leading chance at Kempton.
There we go. Right, of the remainder to talk about before we move on then, each pick a horse. Parky, presumably yours is going to be Vintage Clouds for the National. I know you've been sweet on this horse, paying for your wedding for a long time.
Yes, Vintage Clouds is going to pay for my wedding. I've backed this horse most weeks in since the start of this season. I'm going to back him every single week until the Grand National. He's not only going to win, he's going to win easy. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a thing to say at this point in the season, but
if you can't have fun with
exactly.
it,
Look, this horse is the right age now. I was all over him last year for the race. He didn't get in, controversially, because Minella Rocco came out about 2 hours later, which stopped him having a run. He's owned by a multiple winning owner. He's trained by a winning trainer. He stays. He jumps. Now he jumps anyway. He's the right age. He's got a lovely mark. That win at the weekend will make sure that he gets in this year. He's still got bundles in hand. He is a proper racehorse. And he's just been waiting for this race. I'm sure for years they've had this in mind. And look, he proved himself on good ground as well at the weekend. And he is going to pay for my wedding. And if Sue Smith's listening, then if he does win the Grand National, then maybe he could walk Raminta up the aisle. That would be something, wouldn't it?
That would be brilliant.
As long as his fiancée isn't listening, I think you're all right, Tom.
She'd love that. Don't worry about it.
She would.
Nah, she hears how much money you've lost on it when Vintage Clouds topples at the first.
Yeah. That usually happens with these national punts that I have all year. But yeah.
Okay, Tom, a horse to take out of the weekend from you.
Speradek, absolutely love him. I absolutely love Speradek.
He's a nutter, isn't he?
He's great,
amazing.
isn't he? Isn't he a fun horse to watch and have anything to do with, though? I mean, I think he goes off so quick. Poor old Surname, who I thought had a really good chance on Saturday, was exhausted chasing him after about 3 fences. Unfortunately, he went off a little bit too quick for his own good and got done by Cade Deland. But given the pace he went off, I thought he put up a tremendous effort. He looked all over the winner turning for home. I think, funnily enough, going up in triple suit him and they'll give him a bit of a chance. But I think he's still well handicapped. I think, one of those races, if Underso doesn't turn up for that 2.5 mile around Ascot, I think it's in February or whenever it is, I'd give him a shot.
Didn't he run him close last year?
He ran second after making a bad mistake. That was on very, very testing ground. But he keeps on. I think he's a really good horse. I really like him. He's just fun. He's just a fun horse, Speradek, and he's always going to be on my. Every time he runs, I'm watching. That's for sure.
Great endorsement for the sport. Okay, then before we move on, just to clarify, a horse for the tracker, Parky.
Well, I'm going to go down the Vintage Clouds form. Taking Risks was about 10 lengths behind them, jumping the last, and he finished like a train to just be beaten by half a length. I think there's races to be won with him this year because I think Vintage Clouds was out to win at the weekend. So.
Okay, Binners.
I'm going to go for Tom Lacey's bumper horse. Maddie, who won the last at Ascot, Hazard.
Yeah.
Very well backed in the morning. Somebody at the track told me that he was very well regarded by Mr. Lacey. I watched him with the race with Ascot's Food Supremo, Robert John Van Exter, which is a name out of James Bond film or something. But that paid for his weekend, that win. He was very impressive, and I can't wait to see him wherever he goes next, probably in another bumper.
Okay, brilliant. And finally, Tom.
There was loads. There was good for you on Ascot on Friday. I thought Mr. Medic was really good. I thought Flying Angel was very interesting in the same race. I think when you go up him in trip on soft ground, he can win a big race. Flying Medic, he's really well handicapped. Mm-hmm. Jolly's Cracked It was really impressive on his back.
To see him win,
he was great, wasn't he? But the one I liked, despite doing quite a lot wrong, was When You're Ready, Freddy.
Yeah,
I like him.
Yeah.
I really like him. He jumped badly left, didn't he? But I think that might have been a good race. And I think when you lose so much ground doing that, to stick on again, he's got to be a stayer. I think 3 miles on a left-handed track, I think we'll see a totally different horse. And also, the horse he beat by 18 lengths the time before went out and beat Speradec, Cade Delan, on Saturday. So the form's very good. I think he's a lot better than he showed at Ascot on Friday. So I'm keeping him on side when you're ready, Freddie.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because Nicky Henderson's come out and said he wears a really unique bridle because he has a really sensitive poll. Maybe that has something to do with the way he jumps, but nevertheless one to follow. We'll take a quick break now and be back to preview the Ladbrokes Trophy just after this.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. As promised, we're going to preview the Ladbrokes Trophy at Newbury on Saturday. Parky, always a brilliant race. Good to get your teeth stuck into. Who's your fancy?
You say always a brilliant. I'm a little underwhelmed by the race this year. Elegant Escape is a horse that I really, really have a lot of time for. I think he stays really well. He's a good jumper. But I just don't think he's anywhere near the class that Native River was. And he's got a hell of a lot of weight to give away. That, like I said, though, I'm not sure it is the strongest race. I can't see a Gold Cup winner in there. And, Thomas Patrick is probably at the weights, should reverse that form with Elegant Escape. I thought he ran a really nice race at Sandown. The one I like is Dingo Dollars for Alan King. They've had this race, like most trainers do with it. I'm sure they've had this race in mind for a while, and he certainly looks like he's been trained for it. I love a horse who's had a hurdles prep going into one of these big handicaps.
Yeah.
He ran a brilliant race there. It should have blown out the cobwebs, and they clearly think that he's well handicapped, and I think he's there to run a massive race. Okay,
Dingo Dollar for Parky. Tom, lots of discussion about the ground recently at Kempton today. I had my rant about it before we went on air. They're due some rain at Newbury. It'll be welcome, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not far from Newbury. I think it'll be on the soft side anyway already. If they get the rain that forecast, I think it'll be soft ground on Saturday. If the forecast's right, I think it'll be soft. I get what you're saying about Dingo Dollar there. I think normally you're probably spot on there, Tom. It's probably not quite as good a race as it has been in the past. We haven't got a Native River or a Denman in there, so maybe a horse like Dingo Dollar could win, but to me he's a couple of classes below what's normally taken to win a Hennessy. I still think Elegant Escape's got a good chance. I think there's plenty more to come from him. I think he was one of the best novices from last year, but he's still only 6.
Always had a big reputation.
Yeah,
hasn't
he nearly beat Sam Crow. Yeah, and he was. I just think it was all a bit much for him yesterday. I think he's had his wind up. I think he can jump a lot better than he did at Sandown. I think he'll definitely beat Thomas Patrick again. He'd be my choice. Once again, we say he's got a big weight, but it's a little bit irrelevant these days because he's only giving a stone to the bottom weight, and he's not the top weight anyway. So I think these races are so compacted now that having a big weight is not the negative that it once was. I don't mind that. If you're worried about him, then you'd be more worried about Kemboy because he's got to give him £5 and Elegant, and he got well and truly turned over at the Cheltenham Festival, didn't he, Kemboy? So I like him. At a big price, I also think that American might run well if the ground gets soft for Harry Fry. He was 5-1 to win this race last year. 5-1 favourite. He flopped, but the ground was quick then. He made a couple of errors. He missed the start, got him behind. And then after that, he ran in that Cheltenham race and he split Bristol De Mai and Definitely Red. Now, on that form, he is an extremely well-handicapped horse. If you put either of them in there off that mark of 154, they'd be very short-price favourites, I can tell you that. Definitely Red and Bristol De Mai. He is a very good horse on his day. You go back to his novice form, he beat Rock the Casbah in a canter at Utoxeter one day, and we all saw what Rock the Casbah did the other day. He gave him weight that day. He also had Cross Park behind him, and Cross Park came out and won by 20 lengths afterwards. He is for me, he's the best handicapped horse in the race. He's the one horse that could win it by miles. The problem with him is that he's got form figures P2P. He's inconsistent. Things go wrong. P29 actually was as good as a P. Things go wrong for him. If he whacks one, he can give up. He's fragile. He's not that robust. He probably needs things to go his way. And if the ground gets soft, I think he's a big player at an each way price. Obviously, ground conditions in his favour. I think he'll go really well for Harry Fry, and hopefully Noel Feely will ride him.
Yeah, no, really great jockey. A lot of people are going to be interested in Miss Parfois. I was looking at this race earlier. I quite like Rathvinder myself. It took Willie Mullins a long time to win it, but I did so with Total Recall last year. Any chance on those two, Parky? Which one would you be more interested in? Love Miss Parfois.
Probably prefer Miss Parfois. I'm a bit of a romantic, and she's a superb jumper. She's got everything you like, doesn't she? She'll run a big race. Rathvinder was very impressive at Cheltenham, but yeah, I'd probably stick with Miss Parfois, I think.
Yeah, Binners. Sorry, I can't believe we've not been to you already. Price, roll call, and a selection from you.
Well, first of all, Maddie, American for Tom Segal is 25 to 1. How long that will last, I don't know after this is broadcast. At the top, I think we've just had the 5 days. Elegant Escape is now 5 to 1 favourite. 6 to 1 Miss Parfois, Thomas Patrick and Kenboy. It's 10 to 1 Alboom Photo and Dingo Dollar, and it's 12 to 1 Bar. I'm a huge Miss Parfois fan. I was hoping to give listeners a double figure price selection. Yesterday she was 11 to 1 when I did my extensive research for this. She was 8 to 1 earlier this morning, and now she's into 6 to 1 second favourite, so it's not looking quite so jolly price wise. But Anthony Honeyball has been a revelation with this mare. He thinks she's a Gold Cup and Grand National contender. That's good enough for me. She's a lovely mare, placed on her last 11 starts, and I think she'll give listeners a good run for their money.
Yeah, you can't help but love her, can you? Now, I'm absolutely amazed because I can't remember the specific stat, but it's been a long time since a mare has even run in the race, and I'm not sure one's ever won. I'm sure many people will be correcting me, but she has got that to overcome. But anyway, obviously a lot of people will be hoping for a big run from her, me included. A lovely mare, Miss Parfois. If we move on now to the 205 Newcastle Betvictor fighting 5th hurdle, Parky was just saying, quite a remarkable scenario here that we've got the champion hurdle winner, the Supreme winner and the Ballymore winner all in the same race, and you'd be firmly on Bouverdare's side.
Yeah, I would. A little bit. I'd slightly disagree with what Tom said earlier about Bouverdare being. Look, everyone seems to crab him for being a bad champion hurdle winner, but
he's won 2.
Well, exactly. And look, if you look at the horses that have come out of his first champion hurdle win that have gone chasing, Footpad, So Royal, that was impressive at Cheltenham. That was a good race, that first champion hurdle. Last year's we're not so sure yet. But, you know, Willie Mullins talks a lot about Mellon. He just gets the job done, Bouverdare. He is a very slick jumper, which I'm not quite sure that Sam Crow or Somerville Boy are. I think they'll get found out with him. I'm not convinced the novice form from last year is actually up to scratch. A horse that I'll mention later on, Mengli Khan, back for the Arkle. I'm not quite sure whether that form's going to hold up, because all these horses that have ran in the Supreme, the Ballymore, they've flopped. Was it Paloma Blue on Sunday? Was a bit disappointing. I wasn't convinced with Kalashnikov's chase debut. There's been others from the race. I'm just not convinced, really. So, look, to do what Somerville Boy did at Cheltenham was remarkable, really, to be almost down at the second last and then motor on to go and win the race. That you need to be good to do that. I just think Bouverdare is very good. I think he unnecessarily gets his form crabbed, and I think he'll be very tough to beat. Yeah,
it's a shame, isn't it, because we haven't seen many of them. Even Blackhop, I know he's set to go chasing, but he was pulled out the other day. It comes back to the old ground thing we could really do with some rain. Tom, you're always bound to take on Bouverdare. He's always bound to be a short price. So who would you oppose him with?
One of the other two, Maddie. I like Sam. I mean, Sam Crow. Obviously, we've got the two Cheltenham novice hurdle winners. I get what Tom said there, that I could be being really harsh on Bouverdare, saying he's not the best champion hurdler I've ever seen. And I mean, look, he's won 2. He might win 3. He might win 4. But I always try and take an angle on against him. I would have done the same with Ister. I would have done the same with all of them. You've got to try and take them on, because I think these new kids on the block can give him something to think about. Mellon nearly did it last year, for starters. I think Sam Crow and Somerville Boy are better horses than Mellon myself. So I'd give them a shot. I mean, it'll. At the prices they are at the moment, I don't know what Binners is going to say, but I thought Somerville Boy was quite a big price, really. Tom George's horses are in really good form. He won 2 Grade 1s last year, did incredibly well to win the Supreme. The time was identical to Bouverdare. At the prices, I'd probably go for Somerville Boy, but we'll see what the final field stacks up to be like.
Yeah, Parky was just telling me that Bedrock's still in it. On the basis that he's already beaten Sam Crow, would you give him a chance?
Yeah, he's improving fast, isn't he? I mean, I think the key about the Sam Crow race was that him and Sharjah, Ruby rode Sharjah to beat Sam Crow, didn't he? And they went off way too fast, and Sam Crow took it up miles out. And first run of the season, he simply got tired, I think, and sort of set the race up for Bedrock. So I think Sam Crow will beat him this time, put it like that.
Okay, Binners, over to you.
Well, speaking to Danny Archer of Race News earlier in the day, and he reckons this is the race of the season. We make Bouverdare 11-10 favourite, Sam Crow 6-4 to bounce back, Somerville Boy 4-1, Bedrock, who as he said beat Sam Crow last time 9-1, 12-1 Apples Jade, and it's 25 bar.
Okay, that should about do us for the Fighting Fifth preview. We'll be back in a second with some midweek racing action.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and $1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Welcome back. We're going to talk about some of the racing midweek now, and then we'll get your naps. Lots of action at various tracks during the week, Parky, but you're going over to Ireland. You mentioned Mengley Khan earlier, making his chasing debut. He's
entered up at Punchestown, yeah. Look, I backed him earlier in the season.
On Wednesday, we should clarify.
On Wednesday, yes, sorry. I backed him at 20-1 earlier in the season for the Arkle. My worry now is what I mentioned earlier about whether this Supreme form is actually that good. Layla could turn out to be the bet of the century. He was brilliant at Cheltenham last week. My worry with Mengley Khan's the form, but this race, there's nobody in it. You're looking down the list. I mean, if Sam Crow gets beat, maybe he'll probably go up in trip as well, I would think. This is meant to be one of the best races of the festival. It's one of my favourite races of the festival. Last year we had a 3-4 runner race?
Yeah.
The year before, I think it was 6. The year before that was 7. I don't think we've had a double-figure race
not
in the
many
Arkle.
tend to run, do they?
I think there's been one in the last 10 years, which brings up the question: have we got too much racing, even at the Cheltenham Festival, which is where the season's all geared to? That JLT, I would just wonder whether would we be better off making that into a mares chase, or even somebody brought it up last year, whether
veterans.
A veterans chase. Yeah, I just think if you've got a staying chaser, you go for the RSA. If you've got an Arkle horse, you go for the Arkle. And I think the betting markets would be more competitive. I think the racing at Cheltenham would be more competitive. It would be more exciting.
Would you kill the 4-miler as well, or keep that?
I like the 4-miler, but it gives horses that are probably not Grade 1 class to have a go at something different. And
produce the likes of Nella Rocco and Native River.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, with that 4-miler, sometimes you get 2.5-mile horses stepping up in trip. And look, there's been some good winners of that. I would probably keep that. It's for the amateur riders as well. It's a little bit different. Look, we don't have it over hurdles. We don't have a 2.5-mile race, and I hope they never do. And I just don't understand why you need one. I don't think you need the Ryanair, and I don't think you need the JLT either. I think you'd be better off having the speed horses going one and the stayers going for the other.
And then you've got all the handicaps to fill in the gaps as well, haven't you, I guess?
Yeah, exactly.
Tom, it's an argument we have sort of every year, but are you in agreement?
No, I'm not. Unfortunately, Tom, I'm not. No, I just don't see the point of having more horses in the Arkle. It's not going to stop Altior winning. It's not going to stop Duvan winning. It's not going to stop Footbad winning. It's not going to stop Sprinter Sacra winning. It's not going to stop Undersow winning. They're just, having more horses in the race doesn't make any difference about quality. They'll just finish lap. They'll just get further and further behind. I like the JLT. I think it's been a really good, and I like the Ryanair. I mean, that might just be because I've backed a few winners in them, and I always tend to like to go for the races you like. But I like those races. I think they provide something else. I think you go for years now. There's been Arkles that have had 5 or 6 runners, and it's been nothing to do with the JLT. I just think there's a dearth of really top horses that want to run against a superstar. The problem is with the Arkle is you get a superstar in it nearly every year. You get an Altior, and no one wants to come third to Altior because it finishes your career sort of thing in a thing. And I just think that's the way of the world, and I think that's the way of jump racing. I personally like the other races. I think it provides. I think the festival is brilliant as it is. I don't want mares chases. I don't want veterans chases. I don't want anything like that. I think we've got plenty of Grade 1 races there, and I think they're all good, and I love all of them, and so I don't want to lose them for the sake of having 5 more runners in an Arkle, and which we will still see the same winner. That's my opinion, but I get others have differing ones.
I just think, look, over the years, Tom's right. Look, there's been some really good winners of the Ryanair. There's been some really good winners of the JLT, but I would love to have seen Vortua when he ran in that JLT, run against Undersaw.
Or even when he ran in the Ryanair, running the Gold
or
Cup.
Running the Ryanair and running the Gold Cup. Or York Hill, run him in the Arkle, because he was brilliant that year. I mean, you were probably never going to see York Hill again. But, like, personally, I would like to see that race have 2 or 3 superstars come from it, rather than just one and then have another one later on in the week. That's just the way that...
That's sort of an argument against trainers having so many good horses rather than the races, I think. Ooh. I think when you've got Willie Mullins having 400 horses and Gordon Elliott having 400 horses, very good ones, we're going to get that whatever. I don't think York Hill would have run against Undersow or wherever he was going to run about whatever. I don't think Duvan would have run against Fotor ever. I just don't think that would have happened. And so just taking a race away is not going to change that. I think if we had a situation where we had 20 trainers with good horses, then yes, I think your argument is more valid. And personally, I think we're not going to see that given the situation we find ourselves in at the moment, because the balance of power is with 2 or 3 or 4 trainers.
I feel like Harry Hill. I'm like, fight! I'll go over to you and get another quick word then. How would you respond to that? Because, it's sort of another talking point of we've got a monopoly of trainers having all the good horses, and Tom's alluded to that there.
The Cheltenham Festival is the pinnacle. So I get what Tom's saying, but if where they're going to run them, they're still going to...
They're going to
with different owners
to run them, wouldn't they?
I mean, yeah, Rich Ritchie might not decide to run his against each other, but Wiley might want to run York Hill against one of Ritchie's, or Undersaw might want to move. So, you know what I mean? I think... I just think that I think that's the way it should be anyway. Okay,
that's an argument for another day. Before we move on, Binners, quick word to you. Midweek racing, you've got your eye on a novice chase on Friday.
Yes, the 150 at Newbury. Really looking forward to Santini if he comes back for Nicky Henson, third in the Albert Bartlett, and then won the Sefton Novices Hurdle. Looking forward to that one over fences, but it won't be an easy task for him. He, also in the race, possible La Bago, but Warren Greatrex. She's already proved it against the boys. This trip is a bit shorter than she won here last time, but it won't be an easy task for Santini, giving her £7.
Okay, quickly, Tom, over to you. Brief midweek fancy.
I like Doncaster, horse called Slainlock for Rose Dobbin, and I think Craig Nicholls down to ride him in a chase over 2.5 miles. He's got great Doncaster form, won't mind the ground. It's only he's inexperienced. He's inexperienced against proper experienced chasers, but I think he's got plenty in hand of the handicapper, so he'd be my one. Slainlock at Doncaster on Friday. Okay, now it's time for the midweek nap.
This will not be beaten.
Mine haven't been doing terribly well, but why not? I'll chuck another one in there. Strong Glance has 2 entries this week in the 150 at Wetherby on Wednesday and the 12:10 at Newbury on Friday. Bumper form's been boosted by Master Debonair, who won at Cheltenham the other day. Always really liked this horse. Beautiful looking animal. I think he can progress. Tom Park.
I like Sam Spinner in the 3 o'clock at Newbury. He's up against Halston. He was
on Friday.
On Friday, sorry, yes. He was quite impressive, Halston, but look, Sam Spinner's only 6. He's still got plenty of time to improve. He set the race up for them at Cheltenham. You can forgive his entry run after a pretty tough season. He was 9-4 for the Stayers. I think he's 25-1 for the race now. So looking forward, I think he's a good bet for that. I think he'll be a better horse this year. And I think if he was trained by someone else, he'll be a lot shorter for the Stayers, and I think he's a good bet at 9-4 for the race on Friday.
Yeah, great story. I went up to see Jed O'Keefe's yard and saw him there. Really lovely setup, and wish them well this season with Sam Spinner. Binners, a midweek fancy from you?
Yeah, I've got one at Turley's on Thursday, Maddie, in the 125. It must rain. The horse won't run otherwise. Called Let the Airs Walk for Curracundra Brendan Duke. Finished third on his hurdling debut last time. Spoke to Brendan yesterday, and he reckons this one will go very close if he competes. and it'll be worth watching him because apparently he's a brilliant jumper of a hurdle.
Fantastic. Puts the pressure on, but that's the sort of content we like on the Monday Postcast. Tom, just clarify your midweek nap. Is it at Donny or somewhere else?
Yeah, no, I think I went too soon there. Should read the running order, shouldn't I? Slanelock at Doncaster is one. I also like a horse called Unblinking if he gets in at Warwick on Thursday for Nigel Twiston-Davis.
Thanks for that, Tom. Best of luck with your bets wherever you're heading to this week, and enjoy the racing. Always remember, if you enjoy these shows, please rate, review and subscribe to them on wherever you're listening to us from. Don't forget to listen to the weekly golf postcast every Wednesday and our football tipping shows every Thursday. Bruce will be back on Friday to give a more detailed preview of all of the cards, so make sure you join him then. I'll be back next Monday. Enjoy your racing.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.